Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Life Cycles Live. Sanya, what's going on?
Hi, I'm here. I'm so glad that we're here. We made it.
Yes. I have everyone. No one else knows this yet, but we've been trying to make this happen, and we've had to
My
reschedule a few times.
gosh. Yes, we have. And Lucas is so patient with me that he'll always tell me, okay, Sonia, I understand. It's okay. No worries about that.
I don't really, if you want to get the talent, you have to go where the talent is. I got to get to your
Mm.
spot on the schedule, so it doesn't matter when I'm available. I make my time happen. But I needed to get you on the show. So, for those that don't know Sanya Mathura, she's the managing director at Strategic Reliability Solutions. She's amazing. She's in the East Partnership Circle of Trust. She's family, and we absolutely love Sanya. And she has a whole suite of lubrication engineering type courses at East Partnership. And Sanya, tell us a little bit about reliability, like what you guys are
Oh
doing.
boy. So let me start with reliability. The power went earlier today. That was not very reliable. Let's begin there.
Yeah, yeah. And so did
So
Strategic Reliability Solutions get called to go fix the problem? No.
we did not, but every time the power goes, my immediate thought is, oh my God, did somebody not change the oil in the transformer? What did they do? That's my immediate thought. But it came back after some time, so I guess they sorted it out.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and for those that have never been to the islands, the power uh,
Hmm.
challenges are different than they are on larger
Yeah,
mainland countries.
they are different, they are very unique. We may have power outages because an animal was on the power line, or certain things like that just randomly happen. They short out the power because they decide they want to eat the lines. But it is what it
That's it.
is.
And Sonia's down in Trinidad, Tobago, right? So
Yes, we are.
what are you? You were born and raised in Trinidad, correct?
Yes, I was. I am. And what I like about Trinidad and Tobago is that we're part of the Caribbean. So we're part of this little chain of islands, and we are the southernmost island. So we're lucky in our location in that when hurricanes pass, they just pass right above Trinidad. They just miss it. So, God is a Trini. We're totally okay with that. A lot of the other islands, they may get hit by hurricanes, and they will feel the full brunt of it, but Trinidad doesn't feel it as much, so we're hoping that stays that way. We're okay with that, totally
Yes.
okay with that.
Yes. And I've every time, poor Sonia, every time we talk, she has to hear me tell sea stories about when I was in
That's
Trinidad
fine.
back in like 1999. Um, Loved it, absolutely loved it. Trinidad's beautiful. The people were so great. I love the music. You guys have such a
We do.
unique fusion of music. It's not like I guess I was 19, 20 years old. I was expecting, I didn't really know what to expect. I'd never, never even been in that area of the world at that point in my life. But we get into Trinidad, and I'm like, this is awesome. Like the music is great. You guys have like tons of great music, and you can go
Hmm.
from town into a mountain onto a beautiful
Hmm.
beach. I just loved it.
Yep. And I think it's because we have such a diverse culture in Trinidad where we're completely mixed. So that helps quite a lot in terms of the food that you get, especially food. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a foodie paradise. I know you would have enjoyed all of the food while you were here.
This dude like dragged a shark out of the water and like made shark sandwiches right there on the
Oh,
beach. I
yeah.
was like, this
Hmm.
is awesome. Because we were
Yes.
there for like, we're just sitting there drinking beer on a beach for like 6 hours. So we had time, but they had just caught it.
Hmm.
And they had these little shacks, like these little,
Yes.
food huts and
Hmm.
right on the beach. And, you see them pull the shark up and you're like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, you want a sandwich? You're like, yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
So good. Another thing that caught me by surprise there was the cars. I had no idea they had so many unique imports in
Oh,
Trinidad.
yeah. We import a lot, and we also customize a lot. So
Yes.
there are some things that you would see here and It'll take you quite some time to get accustomed to it. But they do a lot of customization, a lot of the engines, the turbo. It may be like initially a one tall engine and they change everything because everybody thinks they're a racer.
Yeah.
Yep. But
Yeah.
now we have speed limits, and I want to say now because in the past we did have speed limits, but we didn't use speed guns. The police, they weren't using speed guns, so now we have implementations and we're using speed guns. So I am not a racer.
Were maybe
I
past 10.
I am not a racer currently, and I stay within the speed limits, especially when I see those blue lights.
There you
Yeah.
go. That's right. Yeah, that's you. Always following the rules.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of following
Definitely.
rules, if anyone wants to talk to us, put something respectable in the chat,
Yes.
and you can ask Sonia questions. You can talk to us about. We've got topics. We're not just here to shoot the breeze. We're going to talk about all kinds of cool stuff. But Sonia's a friend, and if you're watching this show, you're a friend. So you
Yes.
got to hang out with your friends. That's the way
You
to.
should. That's the only way to go.
That's it. So tell me about you guys have a special upcoming anniversary.
We do. Oh, and I saw that Bob finally made his way here.
Yes,
Yes,
finally.
Bob. We were gonna draw you a map, Bob. Definitely
Yeah,
gonna draw you a map.
yeah. We were having fun at your expense before we went live, Bob. I was telling Sonia, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, I just got an email. Bob's finding his way." So very good.
Yes. And yes, so in August, at the end of August, on the 30th of August, Strategic Reliability Solutions will be celebrating their fourth anniversary. We made it to 4 years.
It's
Yes,
huge.
yes. And
Oh,
I remember when we first started, and I'm like, wow, I
yeah.
know I didn't get that much older, but 4 years is a lot.
Yeah. I mean, and especially, I mean, I'm not trying to point out the obvious here, but you are resource constrained. You're in the islands.
Hmm.
To start a small business, especially as a woman in that industry,
Oh yeah. Mm.
as a business owner, a small business owner, and to get that thing off the ground and be here 4 years later, that's huge. I mean, would
Yes.
you be willing to share maybe some tricks
Oh
and
my
tricks
gosh.
that aren't 4 years old?
I can, but I'll tell you one of the first things, and I remember this so clearly. I went to a big oil and gas customer in Trinidad, and I was telling him about strategic reliability. This was like 2 months into the business, and he's like, "Oh my God, this is such." Oh, hi, Josh. This is such a great initiative. Great company. I love the fact. I love what you're doing. Who is the guy responsible for it? And I'm like,
You
okay,
look
hang
at
on, wait, hold on. I'm the girl responsible for it. And thank you so much for, letting me know that was a great business idea. So we do come across that within the industry, but I think when we come across that, the thing is just to educate and empower people around us. So letting them know that, we're here, we're here to solve the solutions.
that's it.
And I remember 2020 when the pandemic started, it was all about pivoting, all
Mm.
about figuring out, okay, well, this is what the industry needs right now. This is how we can actually help them. And one of the main things that I've found, especially within just dealing with customers and to survive for so long, you need to understand what they want and how you can bring value to them. Not just saying, okay, well, I saw this person do this, so I'm going to do this as well. That may not be aligned to your business and to your core values.
Mm.
So, understanding the value that you could bring to your customers, how can you actually help them solve a solution? Because and I do not mean this in a bad way, but we all have problems and we're all looking for solutions.
Yeah.
So if we can find that and make somebody's life a little bit easier, that's all we need, you
Yeah.
know? That's
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah. And you do such a good job of being personable. And
I try. I try to unleash my inner human at all times.
I think that people tend to want to do, and this is natural. You want to work with people and you want to interact with people that you're comfortable with, and
Hmm.
you have an amazing gift of setting people at ease and making them want to be a part of your network and a part of your world. So, testament to your success of 4 years.
Yay.
That's personality driven, especially in a small
Mm.
business. So
Oh
that's all
yes.
you.
And
So
I know you are celebrating an anniversary as
yeah,
well.
yeah, a little bit,
Hi.
just a tiny one. We just hit one
Small step.
year. Yeah, so we're hitting 1 year at East Partnership this month in August. And it was a
Yay.
crazy idea a little over a year. And Sonia was one of the first people I actually shared it with. I said, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And so it
Oh
was like,
yeah.
I went to Sonia and I said, "What do you think?" And she said, "Oh, it sounds pretty cool." And I went to Suzanne Greenman, and she said, "Oh, that sounds great." And then I talked to
Hmm.
Bob because I was looking for Bob's advice, because
Always.
Osage Bob. Bob, what do you
Hmm.
think? Bob's like, "Man, that sounds great," and I'm thinking, well, nobody's told me I'm an idiot yet, although they may be thinking it. So maybe it's worth just giving it a shot. But to me, the power of all these things is relationships, and I would not be here a year after I started without you and Bob and
Um,
Suzanne and Jesus Infante.
yes.
And we've got some affiliate relationships
Hmm.
that you and I both share with RCI and PM Pro Learn, and we just have a really good network of people around us. So it's awesome. Oh,
Yeah,
look at
and yeah, Bob, you are essential no matter what.
Bob. So Bob, what we do is we try to elevate you in public, right? We're like, hey,
Yes,
Bob's the guy that's responsible for all this success,
he
so that when we
is.
fail miserably, we can say Bob's the
Mm,
reason we failed miserably.
he was the root cause.
Bob's smart enough to go, yeah, I'm not falling for that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Thanks, Bob. We appreciate that. And we do have Mr. Muhammad with us.
Hi. Hi.
Muhammad tunes in every single week.
Oh, well done.
Yes, every single week. And Muhammad is on the west coast of Africa.
My
So,
gosh, what time is that there? Tell us what time it is.
Muhammad, what time is it? Tell us what time it is where you're at, man. And he works
Yeah,
in the
because
mining industry.
wow, the
Yep.
mining industry is huge.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm sorry, but I think about contamination as soon as I think about mining because I know what happens in mining. Like they're always asking me about how can you reduce the contamination in mining because stuff just gets in there, and I totally understand that. Totally
Yeah. So,
understand that.
are there any like tricks to, I never really considered that. I mean, it's a huge,
Mm.
they must have a lot of airborne contaminants, right?
Yes, they do. And then we have to remember that they are doing a lot of work for those that are doing the work underground. So you have to be very, very stringent in storage and handling, being able to identify lubricants. Because if they are changing lubricants and it's dark, guess what? You can't really see what's going on. So
Yeah.
color coding, just being able to handle all of those things so that's a seamless process for them. You're going to be changing your filters very often. You should ideally do filtering before you get any oil in from the storage containers into the equipment because you don't know how it went into the storage container in the first place. If there was a siphoning action going on there, if you had some particles being exposed. So filtration is so, so important in that mining industry. Oh, it's 8 p.m. Thank you for sharing your night with us, Mohammed. Thank you.
Yeah, he tunes in every Wednesday, and
Oh,
Muhammad
that's
is,
very nice.
yeah, and he's here for all the right reasons. He really is
Good.
interested in learning more. Uh, he's not here just so he can make fun of us. That's a good thing, right?
Always a good thing. Always.
Although if he keeps hanging out with us, eventually he's going to be making fun of us because he's going to be
That's
like, "Oh,
totally fine. Where you're among friends.
that's
You
right."
are among friends, so everything goes.
Yeah. So Mohammed, if you have any questions for Sonia, she's here. She's not going. I got to
Yes.
pin down for like another 45 minutes. So feel free to ask questions.
Yep.
But So, so your anniversary is a big deal. It's 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Are you celebrating? What are you guys doing to celebrate?
Hmm. We love a good sale. Like, we love a good sale. No
You're
matter if, like, I cannot pass a sale sign straight. I'm like, oh, wait, sale? 50% off? Okay, let me check that out. So I know we're going to be having some very exciting prizes, some giveaways, some discounts coming up for the month of August. It's going to be amazing.
excellent.
Yes, there's going to be a sale. Definitely going to be a sale. Look out for our sales.
So, for those that don't know, Sonya's secret, like her hidden talent, is out wide out in the open. It's what you guys all see. She's an exceptional marketer, right? I mean, she just is so much. Like I look at what she's doing every day, and I'm like, gosh, how can anyone keep up with her, right? So she's like amazing at marketing her products. I have never had Sonya say no to a sale. I'm like, hey, what do you think
Oh my
about, like,
gosh, yeah.
it's Friday and it's 3 o'clock. What do you think about having a sale because it's 3 o'clock on Friday? She's like, yeah.
Yes. I cannot. That's just in me. I can't pass a good sale up. So that's me.
See, I think that's personality driven. You like to
Yeah.
share.
Oh yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 It's very important. We
Yeah, that
need
gets
to make
right.
sure. Mhm.
Well, that gets right to the heart of why I think you're successful as an entrepreneur, because you don't have some of those. Well, maybe you do. I don't want to assume, but you're really good at overcoming them if you do. You don't have some of those inhibitions because you're an engineer. I want
Ah.
people to understand this is an engineer you're talking to, and she's
Yes.
so good at communicating. And
Yes. Which is
network.
strange.
I know, right?
Strange engineers. Yeah. Yeah. I get that all the time because I have people tell me, "Are you sure you're an engineer?" And I'm like, "Well, I think so. I remember taking those exams, so those are not something I'm gonna forget right now. I
Yeah.
think I am."
I was in a brief at Coast Guard headquarters when I was an officer, and we get done with this presentation, and this commander goes, "Mr. Marino," and I said, "Yes, ma'am," and she says, "What is your specialty?" And I said, "I'm a naval engineer," and she said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Huh, I've never met a naval engineer with a personality."
Oh
And I couldn't help but laugh because the admiral I'm sitting next to, he's a
my
naval
gosh!
engineer.
Yes.
And he goes, what do you mean? You
What do
know
you? But
me.
yes. Hmm.
So it was a bit of a joke, obviously,
Oh
to try and
boy.
break
Hmm.
the ice, but not wrong. I mean, we do get labeled, engineers get
Yes.
labeled as not being strong
Hmm.
communicators, and I think it intimidates some engineers that are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs. They're like,
Ah,
hey,
yes.
how am I possibly going to market myself,
Hmm.
my business, get out there and break ice with clients? Like, how am I going to do these things? And Sonya, you do such a fantastic job of setting the pace for others, and I'm all constantly trying to keep up with you. So thank you so much for that
Yes, thank you.
inspiration.
I try. I really
And
try.
yeah, keep trying. It's working. And look at this. Muhammad says, you know,
Oh,
this is why you're here. You know,
yeah, okay.
he
Thank
never,
you, Mohammed.
because we have smart people that come on here and it's not me.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So we're both there.
There
Oh
you go.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
look at
no,
that.
Bob. Bob, if you do come to Trinidad with her, I am so we're gonna have a day out. We may leave you in the hotel, and I know all the good places, so you don't worry about that.
So now, Bob, you know what the danger here is, right? Because Sonya, you've
Hmm.
worked with Sonya to arrange courses, so she knows everybody, and she can, like,
Yes,
have you distracted, and you wouldn't even know it.
maybe, maybe not.
That's awesome. Um, well, I think one of the things that I admire about what you are able to produce is you handle many different types of medium very well.
Oh yes,
Right? You manage to can be very consistent with your presence on LinkedIn. You're also very present in sharing your expertise with people in the maintenance community.
yes, I
Um,
try.
yeah, the upkeep maintenance community is awesome. For those that aren't in there, you need to go check that out.
Definitely join.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
Sonya's very good about sharing her expertise with people in that space. But one of the things really admire about you, because I'm somewhat of a book nerd, is you're a routine author, not just like a
Oh
one-off. You're
boy.
always writing.
hmm And we're blaming Bob for that. We are so blaming Bob for that.
Yeah,
Because
you blame
Bob,
them.
we're blaming Bob. Yeah, Bob told me, he was like, "You're gonna write a book one day, Sanya." And I'm like, "No, Bob, not gonna happen. That's on you. You are the author. I know you did the RCA book. You go ahead with that." He's like, "No, you're gonna do it." So we're blaming Bob for this one, obviously. And
What about the
when
last one?
the second one, we're blaming Bob for that one too.
So what do you
So
have going on with that?
So the first book that I did it at the beginning of the pandemic. So nothing was going on. The only thing I was doing was studying for my exam, my MLE exam, studying for my MLE exam and writing for the entire day. So that was perfect. And
Mm.
that's when I wrote Lubrication Degradation Mechanisms, a complete guide. And then things just started to change. People decided we need to pivot, we need to change business structure. So things just started picking up. And after launching the first book, I had so many different reviews. Like people are like, oh my gosh, I've never seen all of the information in one place before. And that was one of the main things that I wanted to do with that book. Because I wanted to find that information out initially beforehand. And I had to go to somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody else. So the information existed, but it just wasn't in one place. And I wanted to make sure that I could have gotten that information in one place for other people like me. I didn't know that there were other people who were interested in these sort of things,
Oh.
you know?
Mhm.
But when the book came out, a lot of people are like, yes, this is exactly what we've been looking for. And huge thank you to Wayne Hublal. He he actually said, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna order 10 to 15 books and I'm just gonna give them out to my customers because everybody needs to know about this." And I'm like, wow, that's nice.
That's cool.
And he messaged me with a picture and he's like, Sanya, I just gave your book to the guy in the Irish Navy. I was doing some work on the Irish Navy, one of the boats, and they had a lubrication issue, and I gave him your book. And I'm like, oh my God, this book went wherever I couldn't go, because I was still stuck here, the borders were still closed. And after the book launched, I think it launched in November or so,
Mm.
over December, because our minds don't ever switch off. We're always going, right?
Yes.
And I'm like, it would be good to find out not just the lab tests and the different degradation mechanisms. It would be good to get to the actual root cause. Because we always stop at the physical stuff. We stop
Yeah.
at, okay, there was a seal that was bad, that was leaking. We change the seal, we move on. That's
Mm.
it. It should be the end. But that's never really the root cause because we don't go all the way down. And Bob,
Mm.
I'm waiting for you to chime in at any time, right? Yeah. So I talked to Bob in January and I'm like, Bob, I think we should do a part two, like a follow up to the lubrication degradation mechanisms, finding the root causes, which is the name of the new book. And there's nobody else that I would do this than with Bob because Bob is the expert. He is definitely expert. And he was so patient with me. So he's a good, very good big brother. He helped me to get all the information out of my head and into a root cause tree. And he's like, so how do you think we could do this? How can we do that? And it was so amazing and so great to work with Bob because now I know that we definitely are related because we work the same way.
That's awesome. And he would, you're helping Bob's reputation out, by the
That's
way.
fine, totally fine. I don't mind at all. And
I
what?
I pick on Bob because he's not here, physically to defend himself, but
Ah,
we're gonna
don't
end up getting a
worry.
beer down the street someday soon, and he's
We,
gonna, stick
mhm.
his finger in my sandwich or something right before I take a bite.
So what we did is that we went through each of the different mechanisms, and we developed trees for them, guided root cause analysis trees, something that you can take and apply it to your system, apply it to your environment, and really follow the root cause. So that's what we wanted to do. And that book has been submitted to the publishers, and hopefully it should be out before the end of the year. So very
Excellent.
excited for that.
And you guys are publishing with CRC Press, correct?
We are definitely. And
Excellent.
as a bonus, what I'm actually doing is I am presenting on one of the topics, exploring the root causes of microdieseling at Lubrication and Reliability Virtual Summit in September. So if
Mm,
you want a sneak peek of that, definitely attend that event because I'm giving away the PDF of the actual tree, even if the book isn't published yet. So that's the place you want to be to get that.
excellent. Yes. So, and I don't want to let Bob's defense mechanism
Oh
expire.
boy.
Oh, Bob, we're just giving you a hard time. We should just name this the Give the Bob a Hard Time show.
Oh yeah, we could. That would be too long.
We had like make it an acronym and no one would understand what it means.
Yes.
But
That works.
um,
That definitely works.
so tell us about the lubrication reliability virtual summit. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did on your first attempt. I'm very proud of you, Lucas. Very
I'm
proud of you.
learning to read. It's happening.
So, the one thing I love about this entire summit is that it's virtual. That helps me so much because being in Trinidad, it's expensive to travel. You have to
Mm,
stay, you have to be accommodation. This is totally virtual, so I love it. It's global because there are so many. I look at the program listing and there are so many amazing speakers. Bob is a speaker as well. Good job, Bob. And he is good. So there are so many great speakers. We have Bob Latino, we have Greg Livingstone. If you don't know him, he's the guru of Vanish. So I'm already booking my sessions to see him and just hear what he talks about. And there's the guys from ICML. How cool is that?
that's
Like
excellent.
there are so many great speakers lined up for that event. I can't wait. And they're going to be doing a pre-conference as well, which is very cool. So you don't just stay for the 2 days. You have an entire week before that. And
Wow.
they're going to be like conference rooms in virtual conference rooms where you can talk to the speakers before the event. And it's not
Ex-
scripted, it's not a presentation, it's a conversation just like you and I are having right now.
That's
So
awesome.
I love that part of it.
Yeah,
Plus
that's
we have Blair and Stephen and Rob with MD with Maintenance Disrupted doing the podcast. And those guys bring lots of value wherever they go. So I love
and they're
working with
going to be
them.
able to do their podcasts, guys.
Yeah.
Because we've
Mm-hmm.
before in the past at conferences.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Jab, jab, jab. Um, I can't help but pick those or stick, jab those wounds when I can see them because
Oh
some
boy.
people were not willing to let Rob do that when he was first getting started. Yeah, so Bob says
Oh
here
my
that you
gosh,
guys,
yes.
yeah, you had a limit on figures in the book. What's that all about, Sonia?
Okay, so there is a limit. Whether we we try to abide by the limits. Of course, Bob is a rebel, so we didn't abide by the limits. There were so many figures in the book, so we wanted to make sure it was very easy to explain. And the publishers were like, okay, if you go above that figure table limit, you're going to have to turn it into an actual book, like a big, thick book, and add on 20,000 words. And I'm like, we want this book to be very concise, to the point, because we know, Bob and I know the audience. We just want to read it, deal with it, and move on. So our limit was 50, and we were at 83. Not very far, not very far. Not that bad. But we were able to get it down to the 50 limits without compromising so much on pictures and quality. So
That's really cool.
it's yeah, it was a work of editing.
So I'm
Yeah.
sure it was just tons of logic trees,
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely a lot of those.
tons of logic trees. So that book, it's turned in. You're going to be able to share
Yes.
it at the conference. The conference is happening in
Mm-hmm.
September,
It
right?
is.
Okay. The book publishes in.
They have to give us a date on
Okay.
that. So
Gotcha.
I believe it should be out before the end of the year.
Perfect.
Hopefully.
Christmas gift.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Give your kids a copy of the root causes of lubrication degradation. You
They
know,
will love you for it.
they'll never ask for a video game again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's really cool. I think that's awesome that you've been able to produce not only one successful book, which by the way, I've seen a lot of pictures
Oh
of.
boy, yeah.
Yeah, like what's going on? Like they're just like, is this
I
part?
know
This is
they're just
giveaway, right?
they just keep popping up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my book is traveling so much more than I am, you know. So I
Gotta be a
saw Francisco put up one yesterday. I'm like, wow, it got all the way there. That's so good.
Yeah, yeah, that's
I'm
really
like,
cool. And so
yeah,
you're doing a lot of that through the maintenance community, right?
yes, the
Keeps
maintenance community. Mm. They have been so helpful. They are wonderful to work with. I love working with the ladies at maintenance community. I was actually talking to Joanne a bit earlier, so we talk a lot. You know, we mind, you know, have some brainstorming sessions a lot. But they're amazing to work with, and they really bring the community together, and they bring that sense of community. And I think that's something that we never really had before,
Mm.
or within our different sectors, something to bring everybody together. Even though we chat, we talk to each other, we didn't have that sense of full community. And I think they've done an excellent job of bringing everybody together and really instilling that community spirit and that community pride. So love that about
Well,
them.
and you have a dedicated, well, not you have a dedicated channel, but they have a channel dedicated to
Yes.
lubrication, right?
Yes, there is a channel dedicated to lubrication and reliability. And what we've done in that channel is that everything related to lubrication and reliability we have in that. And we've done trivia challenges. So I've had people ask me, they were like, Sanya, we love the questions that you all put there. Can you send me a copy? Because it's very informative, very interesting stuff. And just as a hint, there is going to be another trivia coming up in August. So be on the lookout for that.
Don't tell Ahmed because he
Yes.
wins like
He,
every trivia.
he's good. Like he
He's really
knows all the answers, right? Oh my gosh, he's really good.
Yeah, so for those that are looking for innovative ways to select consultants, go
Yeah.
go hire Ahmed because he is always
Yes.
in the trivia.
Yes, Ahmed. We
He's killing
support
it.
you. We
Yeah,
support
and
you
I know he
100%.
watches. I know he watches these streams sometimes live, sometimes afterward, and he always leaves a
That's
comment.
fine.
So,
Yes,
yeah, have you
Ahmed.
guys
We thank
friendly?
you for everything that you do.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how some you'll meet some people in I think we just like assume like the social media presence for networking is like
Yes.
your traditional paths like LinkedIn or
Hmm.
sometimes other platforms like Facebook or sometimes even YouTube, although it's not
Oh
so
yeah.
much about networking. But um, you get exposed to new ideas and yeah, Bob
Yes.
says Ahmed needs to go on Jeopardy. I agree.
I agree too.
We're gonna have
Ahmed,
to
we're
start.
rooting for you.
Yeah, but see, the problem from Ahmed and Jeopardy is eventually they're going to realize because they haven't selected their host yet, right? They're still testing out hosts. He might end up
Mhm.
taking over the show.
He may.
I don't know.
Ahmed. Ahmed, we are with you 100%.
If that happens,
100%.
I'm not going to say like we should get any royalties from that, but it would be nice to at least get a credit. Like you have to wear a
Mhm.
shirt that says Sonia and Luke said it was going to happen. Um, so yeah, I guess where I was going with my thought there was I think the maintenance community's done something that I didn't predict, and I know a lot of people probably wouldn't have predicted. They stood up a Slack channel and said, "Hey, all you got to do is sign up. It's it's free. It doesn't cost anything. Get in here,
Mm-hmm.
and I think most companies would think, well, this will go so far, right?
Mm-hmm.
It won't blow up.
Uh-huh.
But that thing blew up. I love it.
It
And
did.
I mean, I'm like so happy for Ryan and the team because
Yes.
it couldn't happen to better people, and they're fantastic. And you
They're
know,
leading, definitely leading the change, and
yeah,
perfect people to lead the change. Love that
they,
about them.
and they've got the energy and the focus, and
Yes.
they're focused on the right things, and I think that's what's great. And minor plug, I'm going to be doing a webinar with them this evening.
Yeah, and your next hour also.
Yeah, yeah. Like, okay, so I may not be the best planner, right?
That's fine. So that's why you have us, Luke.
There you go,
Why
right?
you
So
have
I'm like, I can do
us.
this, I can do that, I can do all these things. And then I
Hmm.
realized, like, oh my gosh, I'm doing a webinar. I'm doing a live stream at 4, and then we're doing a webinar at like 6 p.m. Eastern.
Hmm. Yeah. Hmm.
Oh man, it's gonna be tight. But
And
now
I
the
think
reason I
that's
bring
what
it up,
happens. That's what happens with entrepreneurs. We're like, yes, let's do this. Let's do this. And then you're like, wait, what did I sign up for? Hang
yeah,
on. Let me
yeah,
check this back.
yep. And I have I have a full time job during the day, so I
Hmm.
schedule all these things for after
Afterwards,
core work hours. And so there's times when my wife is like, "What are you doing? Like,
you're not sleeping.
what time can you eat dinner tonight?" Like, oh, I got to do this, and I got this webinar. And she's like, whatever, dude. Your food's in the
She
microwave when you're
understands.
ready.
She understands.
Yeah,
Great
she's
support.
yeah, she's amazing. And but one of the reasons I bring that up about the upkeep community isn't just to give them a pat on the back, but um, I've had a lot of people ask me like, hey, where can I learn more?
Yes.
I'm like, traditionally would point to texts. I'd say, hey,
Hmm.
go get this book.
Yeah,
Go check out this YouTube channel. Go these things. Dude, go to the maintenance community, right? Like
that's it.
there's so much sharing going on there, and they do an amazing job of hosting all these webinars. I am
Hmm.
not a affiliate. I'm just a really big fan. I may or may not have 2 coffee cups on the table behind me and a couple of shirts that say upkeep.
Hmm.
But that's just because I really enjoy what they do, and any chance I get to interact with them, I take it because it's just great to work with them. And
Yes. They have great energy. Oh, yes. Bob
see,
said it. You see? Bob said it great.
yep,
Bob, that's why we need you.
yeah. So I would be crazy if I didn't ask you to cover something technical while we're here because
Oh, really?
there- there's other people that queue in here to glean some of this expertise from,
Hmm.
about you and I had a conversation last week about asset life,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was sharing a sea story about turbine oil earlier. Talk to me
Yeah.
about turbine oils because I think it's fascinating.
Okay. So let's start off here.
Uh-huh.
Turbine oils, they are 99% base oil, 1% additive. Can you imagine? You have to get everything, your rust and oxidation inhibitors, all of those things into that 1%.
Why is that?
So I think it's because the turbine oils, they need to be as clean as possible,
Mhm.
and base oils have such a huge influence on the entire oil. So when you're trying to get the right turbine oil, they have to start with a very good base oil, and then the additive package just sort of highlights what's in the base oil. Unlike your engine oils, like your regular engine oils, they are like 30% additives. So that's why they're a lot darker in color. So turbine oils are a lot clearer in color. That first thing, if you want to identify between the both of them.
I always wondered that because I had
Yeah,
turbine oils, and they were very expensive, and we
they
had to
are.
handle them very carefully because they were. You and I were talking about this. They're
Mhm.
carcinogenic, and we had all kinds of other stuff because we had these really old gas turbine engines. But we like respected the turbine oil because
Yes.
it was special.
It is. It always is special. Because when you think about a turbine oil, there are some turbine oils that last for 30 years. Some
Hmm.
of them that last for even more. Engine oils don't last that long. So engine oils, you look at like a 6 months or like a 5,000 km, or depending on what you're working with. And when you think about like, especially like a diesel engine, when a diesel engine works, it produces dirt. So it has to produce dirt. That is part of its cycle. So if you drain your engine oil and it's not dirty, something is wrong. Your
Mm,
dirt isn't being suspended in your oil. So that means that it's suspended in the engine. So look out for a failure anytime, anytime in the future. Because I've done seminars with mechanics and a lot of end users, and they're like, one person, I remember one person very clearly getting up and saying, my oil does not change color. And it's the best oil out there. And I'm like, dude, something is up with your engine because that dirt is staying somewhere. It's not
right.
going into the oil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he got up in front of the entire class and says, and I'm like, oops, something's wrong there. You need to check the engine.
Wow.
The dirt is being produced, it is sticking somewhere. If it doesn't get suspended in the oil, and when you do that drain, that's why you have such a short asset in engine oil life. You know,
Mm,
it's gonna produce dirt, and one of the purposes, one of the functions of the lubricant is to suspend those contaminants, so it doesn't get into your engine, doesn't kill your engine at some point in time. With your turbine oils, you have a lot more filtration and stuff going on. You don't have as much dirt being produced. So that's why your turbine oils can actually last 2 to 3 years or more. If you're going synthetic oils,
mm.
definitely.
Is that
And one,
there's a reduced amount of friction with turbines, right? Like just
there
because of
should
the
be,
very
yes.
nature. I mean, you don't have pistons and
Yeah, you
this.
don't have the pistons and whatnot, but with turbine oils, you also have a lot of high temperatures, like
Mm,
extreme high temperatures. That's why a lot of people have oxidation going on in their turbines, and the oils, they start to vanish, they start to sludge, and they're like, oh my gosh, what is happening here? And they blame the oil when true that in fact it may not be the oil. This goes back to your root causes. It can be, your environment trying. So it's about stepping back and understanding, okay, my oil is getting varnished, it's getting sludge. Why is that happening? Is it
mm,
because I have increased temperatures? Is it because I have contamination getting into my system? Stuff like that. That's what you need to look at. Not just saying, okay, well, it has varnish in it. Let me just change the oil. And if you do that, if you do change the oil and it had varnish in it without doing a proper clean or flush of your system, you're gonna get varnish again because there is gonna be remnants in your system. And that's
mm.
one of the things a lot of people forget. They think that if you change your oil, this immediately the system becomes clean.
No.
No, no. It doesn't work like that. So
No.
it's kind of like eating a bowl of soup. If you eat the entire bowl of soup, it's gonna be finished, but the bowl isn't gonna be clean.
Right.
You still need to wash that. Definitely wash that.
Yeah. I go putting cereal in it right away.
Oh no, yeah, soup. You'll have soup flavored cereal. Yeah.
There you
Mhm.
go. Yeah, because I was a diesel mechanic. I was never
Mhm.
a turbine tech. We had turbine techs. I just was an operator of turbine engines. I was never the turbine mechanic. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't. If I put oil in a diesel,
Mhm.
it looked like it was used within minutes.
Yes.
Because I worked with larger diesels and
Mhm.
blow by and all the carbon
Oh
introduction,
boy,
and
yeah.
the systems are just so big that you can never get all of this suspended
Mhm.
carbon and other contaminants out of the
Yeah.
system everywhere.
That's the
I'll tell
thing.
you one thing that got me one time though, and this is again, guys, we just have like these are just straight up conversations. None of this, Sonia has no idea what I'm getting ready to say, but I had been threatened my whole time as a mechanic about fuel oil dilution.
Oh my gosh, that's one thing that we have all the time, especially in the marine sector.
Yeah, it was
Like,
huge, right? And they would scare the hell out of us when we were learning how to be mechanics. Like, you have to watch out
mhm.
for fuel dilution, and fuel dilution looks like this. I'm like, all right, fine. And I never really experienced it until one time. One of the engines I worked with, the way the system's configured, if you if you don't manage the fuel system on this one type of engine properly, and I'm not going to mention the manufacturer,
Yeah.
it'll fill the cylinder with fuel while the engine
Oh,
is at rest, while it's not
oh
in
no.
service. And then when you start it, if you're lucky, you start it,
Mm,
it's not going to cause a stack fire because it blows it out the
yeah.
exhaust, and there's not enough fuel and all that stuff. But what will happen is it will run down past the rings and get into
Mm-hmm.
and so we had
Mm.
fuel contamination on this one engine. And I remember smelling the engine before we even opened it.
Oh my
Like
gosh, yes.
smell the fuel. And I was like, whoa, dude,
Definitely too much.
that is fuel oil contamination in your oil. And then we tested it and it was much lower than I thought it would be. So for those that have never experienced fuel
Mm-hmm.
dilution, it is, you cannot ignore it. It is
Mm-hmm.
very apparent. And despite the size of this thing hanging off the front of my face, it doesn't work that great. I can't smell anything. And all I could smell was diesel. I was like, wow, like we definitely have fuel in the sump. And then when we tested it, I think it was only at like 3.5%, which
It's
shocked.
still within limits, still within limits. And that's the thing for diesel engine oils, you actually have a higher fuel dilution limit compared to gasoline engine oils. Because
Hmm.
remember, with gasoline engines, you have a spark. So when you're doing that spark on the inside, you have to be so careful with that. And just a trick that you may or may not know, if you want to find out about the amount of fuel, or if you have fuel in your oil, what you can do is use a coffee filter and drop some oil on it and let the oil rings come out. And you would see the fuel oil rainbow ring at the end of it. So very
Yeah.
easy to do,
Like a
just to
halo?
figure out. You like a halo, like a
Hmm.
halo, not like a pilot's halo. I've only seen that once, and it was amazing,
Wow.
like amazing,
That's pretty cool.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, we just did falling ball test and we were like, whoa. It's like we knew we had fuel in the oil. Then we
Mm-hmm.
went to the falling ball and we were like, holy cow, that is thin.
Mm-hmm.
And then of
Yep.
course we
Yep.
sent off samples for spectroanalysis, but
Mm-hmm.
the good
And the
old
thing
days.
with fuel dilution, one of the reasons why it's so you don't want to have too much is because it dilutes your viscosity.
Yeah.
It gets really thin, and you only have like a 5 to 10% that you can play with. And
Yeah.
if you did not know before, when they say that an oil is a 5W40, that means it falls within a range. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean it's exactly 40, right? So it falls within a plus or minus 10, I think it's 10%. Um, I'll have to check that back. So it falls within a range. And some manufacturers, what they do is that they may blend it to the thicker end of the scale. So then when you start getting an increase in viscosity and it jumps to the other level, like a fifth grade, you're like, oh my gosh, how did this happen? But
Mm.
always check your base. Always check your base. Because that's where it starts. And baseline testing is so important. Even what I always recommend to people is that you either use your data sheets or you pull a brand new sample from your oil drum, and then a sample at least 24 hours after your engine has started. It's gone through everything. That's your baseline. Work with that. Because when your oil gets into the equipment, it's going to be different in terms of your values compared to what it is in a drum. So using that 24-hour sample as a baseline is great to do. I know some people forget, but it's always, you can't send the oil for analysis after the equipment has died because
Yeah.
it's just going to confirm that equipment died and how it died. So ideally with condition monitoring, you want to do at 24 hours or almost new oil. You want to do it halfway into your interval, your recommended change interval, and then coming close to the interval, the end interval. Because that kind of it trends and it helps you to know how your oil is degrading. And if you know how your oil is degrading, then you can make changes in your equipment. You can make changes, you can understand, and you can say, okay, wait, hang on. Lucas didn't do a good job and he let some fuel get in here. So we need to change that oil as soon as possible, or viscosity is going down too low. So that's the importance of doing any oil analysis, the success of an oil analysis program, it's consistency. Being able to record. It's kind of like just going by the doctor. When you go by the doctor and you get one set of blood results, you're like, okay, let's test it back again in like 6 weeks or so, right? Because they
Yeah.
want to develop a trend. It's all about trending, just like with the doctor. Same thing.
So we were accused of doing too much maintenance in the military, you know,
Ah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
and we would draw oil samples on the equipment for falling ball tests every 4 hours.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then they scaled us back from that and said, all right, you can just do falling ball test every 24 hours.
Oh
And it
boy.
felt like someone was changing the city you live in. That little change was so big
Yes.
for us.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, just check the level of the oil every hour, and obviously we were continuously monitoring temperatures and
Yes.
pressures, but doing an actual falling ball test when I first joined, they were doing falling ball every 4 hours on running equipment.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
So I did a lot of falling ball
Oh
tests.
boy. You're a pro. You're the
Yeah.
expert.
Well, it was funny because we would hand the watch off every 4 hours. There would be a new watch standard, and so you could see how
Mm-hmm.
different one person reads uh,
Yes.
ball test because this guy left the sample out for 10 minutes and then ran the test, and this lady who you just relayed, she left the sample out for 45 minutes.
Ah, that's the thing. Like I always say, when you're doing oil analysis, you need to control as many factors as you can because
Yep.
just those changes could impact a lot on your results. Because
Yeah.
some people, they may leave like turbine oils, they may leave it in a brightly lit room, you know, right there. And you're like, when you get it to the lab, they're like, oh my gosh, there's so much oxidation going on here. Because they left it directly exposed to the light, or they left it under the AC vent, and then the AC came off. So the oil was, getting hot, getting cold.
Mm.
So, try
So wait.
try control
So
as much as possible.
I didn't know that. See, I'm learning something. I didn't know you could that
Mm.
turbine oil oxidation was sensitive to light sources.
Some of them are. It depends on the amount of light and it depends on the bottle that it's in. So
Mm.
if it's in a clear bottle, you're gonna get light coming in. But some of them, what they do is that they put it in a clear bottle and then they put it in a dark canister so that it doesn't have any sort of, changes. Because when we do oil sampling in Trinidad and for certain tests, we have to ship them out. Guess what? Guess the amount of changes those oil samples have to go through before they get to the lab. And I
Wow.
know it's like that in other countries as well. You have to ship them out. So you're thinking about pressure changes, when they go up in the air to come back down. So there are a lot of things that you can try to control. You have to
Wow.
try as much as possible.
So I've got to ask you, and I don't know why I've never
Mhm.
asked you this before. This is like such a natural thing to think. How did you get? What was it about lubrication? Like what?
Oh,
That's like your thing. How did you get into that? Like, how is that your
so
your
So
key?
it's so weird. Um, I I ended up, so my bachelor's is in electrical and computer engineering. Nothing to do with lubrication. Not a thing. Right? And I ended up switching jobs and I got the offer and they're like, we want somebody to work within this field and we want them to be able to be easily molded.
Mm.
And I remember when I went for the actual interview, and after coming out to the interview, the guy calls me and he's like, well, Sanya, I think I was like 23 at the time. It's like, you have two things going against you. You're young and you're female. And I'm like, okay, where's he going with this? And then he's
You're
like,
like two things I can't
yeah,
change.
yeah. Mhm. And he's like, but I think those things could work for you because you're willing to explore the industry. You obviously have a passion. You'll be able to pick up on this easily. And then starting to work, I worked with Shell lubricants and just going out into the field and meeting with engineers and understanding that lubrication was directly related to reliability. That's what caught me. and being able to make such of an impact and such a difference just with the lubricant. That's what sold me on it. So that's how
Very
I
cool.
got into it. Yeah.
You see,
And then I did my master's in engineering asset management. Yeah. So that kind of folded in afterwards.
that to me is so interesting because you don't know, like you probably like so I have this thing with telling a young person that they have to figure out what they want to be when they grow up.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
don't like that, right? Because it drove me nuts when I was younger. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, you don't even trust me to vote yet, but you
Oh
want me to
yeah.
figure out what I do for the rest of my life. I don't know. I'm 17. I can't think.
Hmm.
I can't. One of my old captains told me they can't think past 4 hours. It's like, I'm like, come on, let's not be mean. He's
Yeah,
like, "No,
yeah.
seriously, go ask your 17-year-old." But what he was trying to tell me was it's hard for someone that age to
Hmm.
imagine the world, right? Like
Yes.
because they haven't been able to predict much of it yet. And so
Hmm.
I have this thing where I don't think most of us end up where we thought we would, but we
No.
still love where we are.
Yes, definitely. I never, so before I got into that job, I didn't know that a lubrication engineer existed. I'm like, wait, is that a real job? What? I never heard about that before. So it was very interesting, and it was the good thing about it for me is that it was uncharted territory for me. It was a challenge, and I was totally up to the challenge. I love the fact that I got to learn something new and to be able to explore so much. So I think that's what actually kept me involved in it. It was always something new. It was always something more to learn. So that.
Super cool.
Hmm.
And everything you learn in that space to me translates
Hmm.
directly over to dealing with fuel because like when we had fuel testing and all this stuff, I
Oh
was
yeah.
unfazed as a chief engineer. I was like, yeah, no, no, I got that. And they're like, well, where'd you learn this stuff? I'm like, managing oils. Because like when you
Yeah.
manage lubricating oils, you learn
Hmm.
how
You
to,
learn so much.
you learn so much about petroleum products, period.
Hmm.
And it's just a different application. And of course, but the principles are all the same. And
Oh
I
yeah.
think that, a lot of people just don't assume that fuel is actually a lubricant as well, and it is in most engines
Uh
and
huh.
all that stuff. So, anyways, I just loved the connection between the two. Oh, let me see here. I've got a comment from James. Let's see. I really like
Oh
the book
yeah.
title and the thesis. Oh, look at
Nice.
this.
Mm.
There you go. That's old Jim Anderson.
Oh, well
So,
done, James. I like the
yes,
book title too. Yeah,
so
we agree.
James is an electrician.
Ah.
Yes, and a very good one at that. He's very good, and he sailed with me
Oh
way
yeah.
back in the day. So I've got a very fond spot
Mhm.
in my heart for James. James is like, I don't know this guy. I don't know what he's talking about.
Oh my gosh.
He's like, "Don't blame me now." Let's see, what did Bob say? I was always enamored with failure and practiced it well. Yeah, well,
Oh
see
yeah,
this.
Bob.
So Bob, this is one of those things where it's like it takes a
Mhm.
criminal to know one.
Oh
Like what makes the best cop? A former
no.
criminal. What makes
Oh
the best?
yeah. Hmm.
We had a saying in the military, joking around, because we had a counter narcotics mission
Oh
that
boy.
the people that understood counter narcotics the best were the people that were, had some interaction with it in their previous life. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that
so
works.
yeah,
That always works.
yes, you tend to have a very good perspective when you've got some experience with it before you're told one way to think.
Hmm.
So Sanya, I just want to spend all day hanging out, but unfortunately, my time with you is
Oh
almost up because you
yes.
have so much stuff you've got to do and you've got life, and I don't want to intrude on that. But
And I know you have your webinar in the next hour. We
I
need to get you.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Heather
Remember
will
that.
yell at
Hmm.
me if I'm
Yes,
not
she
on my
will.
A game.
I will message you and make sure you get there on time too.
There you
Don't
go.
worry, Bob has it covered as well.
There you go. Yeah, and I'd be negligent if I didn't ask people or ask you how should people get in touch with you.
Oh, LinkedIn. Like I'm on as Lucas said, I'm on LinkedIn all the time. So
Incredible.
just look for Sanya Mathura, or you can look for Strategic Reliability Solutions Limited, and check out our website, strategicreliabilitysolutions.com. And you can always, I know Lucas dropped the link for the book in the comments, very well done, you know.
I'm going to promote your stuff even when you don't want me to.
That's fine. That's why it's family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do this to every guest. They'll start talking about something, and I'm like, oh, I need to put a link up for that. And they're like,
Oh
why is
yeah.
this guy typing while I'm talking? It's so rude. And then I'm like, there's your link. And
Yes.
they're like, oh, that's what he was doing.
Yay.
And there's Bob. Thanks for sharing.
Oh
Bob,
yes.
thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Bob. We know we love your time.
That's right. And thanks to everyone for jumping in and
Yes.
interacting with this, because this would be, I mean, it'd be fun either way, but it's so much better when you
When
guys
we
are
have
here with us.
interactions.
That's right. Yeah, we've got to have conversations with people besides ourselves sometimes,
Yeah. Sometimes.
And I want everyone to understand that Sanya's presence is about more than just lubrication engineering. She does so much more. So go check out her site, because she's a prolific author. She's an expert on lubrication. She understands reliability engineering in a way that some do not, because of her
Okay.
unique experiences with it.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a fantastic, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic trainer, because she actually
Mm-hmm.
teaches classes, and
Yeah.
she knows a lot of people that can get you training in areas that
Yes.
she does not necessarily specialize in. So
Mm-hmm.
please help Sanya uh, feel like she can go to bed with her head on her pillow and
Mm-hmm.
happy
Yes.
tonight, because she helped you in some way.
Yes, definitely. That definitely helps me, Lucas. Yeah. Once I've helped one soul for the day, I get to go.
That's it. That's it. So, am I forgetting anything, Sonia? I don't think I'm forgetting anything.
No, I think that's about it. We remind you of your webinar at in 1 hour. So
That's it.
that's it. Yeah.
Okay, so everybody, I would be a terrible host if I didn't throw my pitch out there. Don't forget to follow us here on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on YouTube. Like I'm terrible with
Yeah.
this. That one right there. And you can subscribe there if you'd like. We do this every week, usually Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I have to change the date. And I don't want to announce who next week's guest is yet.
Okay. We
It will
keep
come.
that on the wraps.
Yeah. But I will say this. I try to leave this session every time with one phrase, and it's because of people like you that I have this phrase. But
Oh.
I want everyone to go out there and be good human beings to each other. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. That's the
That
last thing every time.
that's the best thing that we can do.
That's it. So Sonia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We'll have you back very soon. And everybody, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you. Have a great day.
Bye.